Hey guys, it's Cote here, and I've got a pretty big battle here today. At least I'm excited for it. This is my first ever UU battle. I'd never played UU before. I've mostly played OU because it's the easiest to find matches for. Everybody likes OU. But I really wanted to play this UU battle. I was really excited for it because it was against a guy named BlameTruth, and most of you have probably heard of him if you're watching this video, actually. So he sent out a Twitter message saying that he was bored and he was really looking for a UU battle, and I was just about to cook macaroni, so I kind of put that on hold, sent him my friend code, and he actually got back to me. So I whipped up this team really quick. In about 10 minutes it's got an interesting mix of sweepers and walls, and we're just going to see how well this 10-minute team can do. So I lead off with the Mesprit, he leads off with the Dawn Fan. I'm expecting him to switch or set up rocks, so I decided to set up my own rocks as he switches out into his Absol. And I'm predicting either Sucker Punch or Pursuit, so that means I definitely want to stay in and do something. And he pursuits, predictably, and the fact that he went first tells me that he's scarfed, so he's probably stuck on that move. And I actually went for a Signal Beam for the super effective damage, and it is going to nearly take out that Absol, which is good for me. So now I'm predicting him to switch since he knows a Pursuit won't kill me and he doesn't want to kill off his Absol right away. So I decide to go for a Psychic here as he switches out into Melodic. And Psychic has a little bit more power, so it's going to do a little bit more, which I guess sort of helps. It does about a quarter damage, so it's going to be about a 5-hit KO because of lefties. So that's not good, and I decide to just go for a Calm Mind, figuring he won't have very much to do to me because he's probably going to Surf, and Surf is special, so I'm going to wall it. But he just makes a great play here and goes for the Toxic, and that bites because now my Melodic is on, or my Mesprit, sorry, is on the clock, and his Melodic really did a great job there. So now my choices are either switch out and save it for this Mesprit for later, or stay in and just use it as a one-time use poke, and that's what I decided to do. The Psychic does a pretty hefty chunk actually after the Calm Mind, but he just recovers it all off and actually gains hit points, so that's no good. So I decide I'm going to go for another Calm Mind and predicting him to keep recovering, or predicting him to switch out into Absol. So either way, a Calm Mind is not a bad idea, and that's what he does. He goes into Absol, and this upcoming play looks a little bit weird, but it kind of had to happen. I know he's going to be fast, I mean he's going to go for another Pursuit, but it looks like his Absol is going to die if it has to come back into Stealth Rock, so I decide here, I know my Mesprit's going to die to a Pursuit and the Toxic, so I decide here to just go for a Psychic and get a free switch in on his Absol rather than go for the, like both of us getting a free switch in if after a double down. So that may look a little weird, but I think that was the right play in the long run given the circumstances. So I think that was a good play by me. So I go into my Septal with plans to set up a sub because he's definitely going to switch. He's not going to stay in and hit me with a useless Pursuit. So there's my sub, and he goes into his Heracross, which that kind of bites because he's going to take out my sub pretty easily. But at least I got a free hit on his Heracross, right? So that's good. So there goes my HP Ice, and he's going to Mega Horn me. I'm not sure why he Mega Horned. He could have missed, and then I could have gotten 2 free hits, but I guess it's 90 accuracy, so that wasn't too big of a risk. So he takes out my sub with the super effective damage, and now I'm predicting him to close combat, predicting me to switch. So I decide to switch into something that can cut its attack with Intimidate. So the only Intimidator I have is Arcanine. So I go into that, and there's the Intimidate, and he's going to hit me with a close combat, and even after the Intimidate, it's going to hurt a lot. It's going to do just over half. So my choices here are either set up a Sunny Day, predicting him to switch, or Morning Sun, predicting him to stay in and try to take me out. I predict him to stay in, so I decide to Morning Sun, and he switches out into Melodic, which is a good play by him, and I guess that a Sunny Day wouldn't have helped at all in the long run, so that Morning Sun just gives me a free health back on my Arcanine, so that's good. And I don't want to stick around and take a Surf if it has Surf, So I decided to switch right out into my Septile, which I guess that's the right play, and luckily his Toxic missed. So now I'm going to be faster than him, and I'm going to set up a sub. I'm predicting him to predict that, though, so that's kind of a lot of prediction. There was a lot of predicting in this game. So I set up my sub, and I knew he was going to either hit me with a Surf. I was praying he didn't have Ice Beam, but turns out he has Ice Beam. I guess that's a good play by him. That Melodic's got a really good move set. I'm not sure what its fourth is, though. So that breaks my sub, and I got a switch. I can't stay in and take an Ice Beam. And I know he's going to predict me to switch, so I've got to go into something that can take whatever's going to come in. So I go into Lantern. And he switches out, as I predicted, right into Heracross. I was not expecting that. So that kind of bites, because he has the advantage there since Lantern's defenses are low. So I switch right back into Arcanine, just as before, get the Intimidate off, and he close combats me again, and unless he gets a crit, I'm definitely going to live it. So I do live with slightly less than last time, but that's because it did slightly more than half, and Morning Sun recovers half. So his defenses go down, and I'm predicting him to predict me to Morning Sun, so I thought he'd go for another close combat, but he just switches right out into Donphan. And I went for the Flare Blitz, trying to take out that Heracross right away, and that was the wrong move. I should have just went for Morning Sun. That is not good for me, because it's going to make sure my Arcanine pretty much can't do anything for the rest of the match. So I'm forced to switch here. I go right into Lantern, and he actually makes a massive play here and rapid spins away my Stealth Rock, which that Stealth Rock gives his Absol another chance to come in, and he has a Moltres that we haven't seen yet, which would have taken half damage. So that really stinks. So he switches out into Heracross now as I T-Wave. I T-Waved predicting him to switch, but I did not predict him to switch into Heracross because that thing has guts, and now it is going to roll me. That Heracross, oh man. So I just decided to Surf since this Lantern can't do very much. So yeah, it's not going to be able to do a whole lot for the rest of the game. So he hits me with the Guts close combat, and that really, really, really hurts. It does 385 points, and I survive on 15, and that really bites. So he gets the defense drop here, and I predicted him to switch, predicting him to think that Heracross would die if I Surfed again, so I decided to go for a Charge Beam, hoping that Melodic would come in to eat the Surf, and then I'd get some super effective damage rather than half damage. So that really stinks. He chose to stay in and just kill me, which was the right play. I was predicting him to overpredict there, and you should never do that. So there goes my Lantern, and that really stinks. That's my only real wall. So I go right into Arcanine here, and I intimidate it. And here I'm faced with either Morning Sun predicting him to switch, or Flare Blitz predicting him to stay in. I predicted him to switch like it did the other two times, and I go for Morning Sun, trying to get some health back, but that didn't exactly pan out. So he's going to hit me with a regular close combat after the Intimidate, which cancels out Guts, and that does a little bit more than half, because it should. So he gets a third defense drop, and at this point, my Arcanine's pretty much useless. I'm just going to keep it in as fodder and just kill this Heracross, because it was really, really, really annoying. So the Thunderfang takes it out easily because of those defense drops. So, and I didn't want to Flare Blitz because that would have killed me too. So he goes into a Mismagius, and he just Shadow Balls me away. So now I'm going to get a free switch in on his Mismagius. So I decide to switch into my Absol here, and my plan was to set up a sub on him switching, fearing a Night Slash, but he actually sets up a sub because he's faster than me. And that really sucks. That pretty much sealed the victory for him right there. Because unless he swapped out here for whatever reason, and I got my Sword Stance in with the sub, I had no chance. So I went for a Sword Stance because that was the only shot I had. And now I have to switch out against a sub, and that is not good. So I go into my Septile to just eat the Thunderbolt, because that's the only thing I really had to take a Thunderbolt. Because my sixth guy, which we haven't seen yet, is Hariyama, and it could take it and maybe Bullet Punch, but I'm not even sure that a Bullet Punch would break the sub. So For whatever reason, I set up a sub with Septal. I knew he was going to Shadow Ball again, but my goal with Septal pretty much was just to break the sub. So I went for an HP Ice on my sub. So after all this stuff happens, yeah, there's my HP Ice, and that's going to luckily break his sub, and he's going to take me out with a Shadow Ball. So it's pretty much game at this point. I might be able to take out this Magius with a Bullet Punch, but it's not looking good at this point. But anyway, I go into my Hariyama just for the Bullet Punch because I figure he might try to set up another sub and just really hammer in his victory, and that's what he does, but he's unable to. So now I predict him to switch. I went for an Ice Punch here because I predicted him to switch into something. Maybe would have been Melodic, I don't know, but his Donphan takes the Ice Punch, super effective, and I get a pretty lame crit here with another Ice Punch and take out his Donphan, but really that just makes it look closer because at the end of the day, it was a close match. He does win 4-0, but two of his guys were next to dead. Like his Absol was on red, really low red, and his Miss Magius was really low red. And this Moltres would have taken half damage if he didn't Rapid Spin away my Stealth Rock. So it wasn't that bad of a match. It looked a lot worse than it was. So I just want to say thank you very much to Anthony for letting me play him. It was, I'm trying to make it seem like he doesn't have some sort of status, but at the end of the day, he kind of does. It really just made my week to be able to play him, even though I did get my ass handed to me. I made a few key misplays that I could have, I should have brought Hariyama in earlier, and I could have taken it from there, but I digress. That was a great match, and I guess I'm going to do a little question of the day here. Why not? Everybody else seems to do them. So, what is your favorite Pokemon? Just answer in the comments. Mine growing up was Alakazam, mostly because nobody I knew ever had one because it was so elusive, because nobody had a Game Link cable, and you really needed one to get them, so I eventually did get one, and it was definitely my favorite Pokemon. When it was just so powerful and fast, and I loved it, and Psychic was overpowered in Gen 1. So anyway, thanks a lot for listening, and have a good day.